Hey, how goes it, everyone? Hope you're all doing well. So, Guts versus Dimitri. Man, what an experience I've had with this one. Let's see, one of my most wanted matchups, they finally brought on my favorite franchise ever, Guts finally got a run back, and the generally positive experience I had in the interim, both in and out of the community. Of course I was gonna be excited. Hell, the aftermath's been great too. An overall net positive response to the episode, and hitting #1 on trending, even beating out Slipping Jimmy Donald Duck himself, Mr. Beast. What a time to be alive! And absolutely none of that is getting into my actual thoughts on the episode itself, which, boy howdy, do I have a lot to talk about, so buckle your seatbelts, folks. Starting with Guts' analysis, and I actually want to lead in by comparing this to his last outing. I don't normally do this, but the difference in how they handled him here compared to back then was a major sticking point for me going into this episode, and holy shit, it is like night and day. Don't get me wrong, Guts' last rundown is perfectly serviceable, it does what it sets out to do, but any story, and especially character development after the eclipse, is either brushed over or just flat out treated like an afterthought in comparison to just hyping Guts up as this medieval doomslayer or whatever. Hell, Boomstick's first line in that rundown was him being excited about how badass Guts is, and that's kind of a tone setter for the entire thing. Here, though, it's not an issue at all. They cover everything Guts has been through with the weight it deserves without any quirky comments thrown in, they cover his story and character progression post-Eclipse properly, and while there are a couple of moments where they hype up how cool Guts is, it doesn't feel like it overshadows anything else, and that's much appreciated. It's a stark contrast where they cover Guts the character here, where previously they only mostly covered Guts the badass. Either way, Guts is treated as 100% that guy, and I agree, so far be it from me to try and take that from him or anyone else. And that's not even getting into all the typical modern amenities, like solid writing on the whole, great editing, good balance of story and versus stuff, and something I haven't typically noted before, excellent use of royalty-free music. There have been individual tracks in some episodes that they've used that fit really well, but never before, to my memory, have they had a case where every single track they've used for a rundown feel perfect, you know? If I absolutely had to pick out any grievances with this rundown, I mean, I guess the ending doesn't offer much in the way of closure, but that isn't even the episode's fault. Berserk just isn't over yet. Maybe Guts can come back later down the line once it is, and this won't be a problem there. Hell, in all honesty, it isn't even a remotely big deal here. And as for Dimitri's coverage, take all the positives I had to say about Guts' end of things, and crank them up to 17. The way they covered his story and character was outright flawless, with a focus on Azure Moon while still working in elements from other routes and Three Hopes. And the way they interweaved all the stuff about his abilities and the versus stuff was so seamless too. That said, the versus side of things does present the sole thing I'd consider an issue in this rundown, in that I wish in the episode they had actually explained why the meteor calc came out the way it did, and why they didn't use anything regarding lightning dodging, particularly because it's so prevalent for Fire Emblem, and because it would have made a comparison with Guts having a lightning dodging calc of his own. But, given my personal priorities when it comes to this show, that's like the smallest potatoes ever, and the only reason I'm bringing it up at all is to keep myself honest. The editing is top-notch, and we even get two of my favorite edits of the season, with the curtain coming down with Three Houses' box art, and of course the tragedy of Dusker. The music choice? Sublime! If I didn't know better, I would believe you had you told me that these were ripped out as Three Houses itself. And you know what also doesn't hurt? The fact that they're even talking about Fire Emblem in the first place. Like, we have a cutaway where Wiz and Boomstick have Three Houses discourse. What fucking planet am I on? And you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and jump the gun real quick and talk about the conclusion. they still show Guts plenty of due respect and even give him a couple of key advantages like speed, but the way they went about explaining how Dimitri still came out on top was both compelling and believable. I especially think so in the way they thoroughly explained the Javelins of Light Feet and the logistics behind it. They did a really good job going about that, I liked it. Overall, everything here bleeds a passion and love for the characters and their source material that clearly can be felt from everyone involved, and I couldn't be happier. But you want to know something? That sentiment goes infinite-fold for the fight. You want to know what issues I have with this animation? Dimitri's shout while casting Thunder here and his jump at the very end are just a little bit goofy. That's it, those are my only negatives. This fight goes fucking crazy, dude! We're going point by point here, folks, starting with the beginning, which, yes, technically is in media res, which I know people have had issues with in the past, myself included, but I really don't think it's an issue here, especially because it feels close enough to the beginning of their encounter, where it might as well not even be in media res. And their first exchange is short and sweet. Dimitri commends Guts' ability with a callback to the 100 men in a single night thing, and Guts tells him to shove it before we get this really cool wide shot of them standing ready in front of that tree, which is apparently a reference to Guts' fight with Griffith in the manga. All cool stuff. And on the topic of conversation, Kevin Rivera is a great fit for Dimitri. He doesn't have the same pitch as Chris Hackney's performance, but he gets across just the right tone and grit I associate with Dimitri, so full marks there. Meanwhile, Guts is voiced by Xander Mobus, who we haven't heard voicing on the show since Season 2. I don't have as much of a frame of reference for Guts' official voice as I do for Dimitri's, but I can tell that he's still got the character down just as wonderfully. Also, they played a Smash announcer voice clip in Dimitri's analysis, which makes it even better that they got Xander of all people to voice here. Getting into the actual fighting, the choreography is buttery smooth. Whether it's subtler movements like a simple dodge or one of their wider weapon arcs, every action feels crisp and clean. On top of that, everything feels like it has the weight and heft that it really needs, and that's thanks in no small part to the sound design. And on that note, I even picked out a couple of sounds I noticed from Fire Emblem itself. When Guts dodges this lance swing here, you hear the sound for when an attack gets whiffed. When Dimitri charges in here, you hear the sound for when a battle is being engaged. It's really cool little details like that that I especially appreciate. And that's saying nothing of everything the visual effects team has put in. From Dimitri's magic to environmental effects to even just the smallest hit sparks, it helps everything feel like it really pops, and all of it comes together to enhance the fight above and beyond into something truly, truly special. Hell, it makes Guts just standing there and shooting arrows look so fucking cool. Anyway, Dimitri blocks a bunch of those arrows and counters with Thunder, which Guts dodges, in a scene that's not only cool and well shot, but is a nice little reflection to the feat that they gave him in the analysis. And his answer of throwing a dagger into Dimitri's shoulder is also a nice little callback to the end of Azure Moon. Honestly, this fight has something for everyone, including fans of the metal pipe sound from Berserk 2016. Honestly, fight would have felt naked without it. But then Guts just carves up Dimitri's back with this brutal strike, and it's a great tone setter for the rest of the fight. But when I saw this for the first time as the end of the preview, my thought process was, holy shit, how the hell are they gonna follow up on that? And trust me, they follow up. Dimitri responds by pinning Guts to a tree and monologuing about how he'll tear off his head and avenge the dead. And what is Guts' answer to this? Well, he realizes that Dimitri is still talking, so he headbutts him to get him to shut up. It's a brief exchange, but a nice one nonetheless. Anyway, the two clash again, but Dimitri locks Guts in place with Thunder and Frozen Lance so he can go in for a decisive blow, only for Guts to catch him off guard with the bomb to cannon combo, which knocks them back and sets us up for what is absolutely my favorite moment in the fight. The resulting fire burns away Dimitri's cape and reminds him of the tragedy of Dusker, causing the voices of the dead to cry out to him. All the while, the Beast of Darkness is pulling at the back of Guts' mind, and it leads to this moment between the two vowing to kill all of them. down to the last one. At the same time, too, as it flickers back and forth between them, and it's just... oh, it's so fucking good, dude! And then that's how the Berserker armor comes into play, with this gnarly activation sequence where it twists Gus' arm back into place before he roars and charges forward to finish the fight, as Dimitri activates his awakened state from warriors and dispels the flames before he too charges ahead. Which, by the way, may I go ahead and say there's already points here because it's a lead-in for the Berserker armor actually getting to fucking do something. Take the fat L, Gutsmare. From there, the fight maintains its fluidity while amping up on the ferocity. The blood being spilled onto the fresh snow, Dimitri stabbing Guts into the chest only to be countered with a punch to the face, and Dimitri knocking off the Berserker armor's helmet to reveal Guts' bloody mug. It's all great stuff. But then Dimitri lands a critical hit atrocity for the finishing blow, complete with the cut-in and everything. It's a super sick shot, and while I do kinda wish they had pulled from Dimitri's actual crit quotes here, it's nothing I'm gonna lose sleep over, especially given how great everything else about the moment is. Speaking of, holy shit, the ending. Dimitri walks away thinking he's won, only for Guts to get right back up and give one last blow, snapping Eredvar in half, which eagle-eyed viewers have already noted that throughout the fight, Eredvar lands 20 hits before breaking, which is its actual durability in 3 houses. I swear this attention to detail is just mwah, chef's kiss, love it. Dimitri reaches for his blade so he can defend, but it turns out Guts isn't just still, but still standing. They really had Guts go out on his own 2 feet, and I can't think of any better way for him to go. And the lead-up is a phenomenal fake-out, especially with the ambiguity up until the reveal as to whether or not the Berserker armor was actually in control till the end. And I know that people have already picked up on the fact that he got to go out as himself, but there's one detail that I don't see brought up a lot that really helps portray that, and that's Guts' eye. The last time it's shown to us before his death, it's glowing bright red as Guts is under the influence of the Berserker armor, but afterwards, it's purely white. It doesn't fizzle out from red or anything like that, so right to the bitter end, he got to go out as Guts, not the Berserker armor. Just Guts. You love to see stuff like this. And to think we're still not done. Guts' brand bleeds, summoning a hellworm to come and take his soul, but Dimitri puts 2 and 2 together that they're not as different as he may have initially thought, and as a show of respect for the man he just bested, vows to protect his body and soul from the beast that has come for him, and is all too happy to take up that fight. All of it ending with this shot of Guts' lifeless, motionless body standing in front of the moon. Just... wow. Ben's said himself that this might be his favorite ending they've ever done, and I'm 1000% inclined to agree. The only thing I can think of that could have elevated this ending even further is if the version of the track they'd used actually had the final lyric, which, speaking of, how have I gone this long and not gushed about God's Hand? The track name is brilliant, the tone is perfect for both characters and their stories and the worlds that they come from, and the lyrics do wonders at both telling a story and referencing Berserk and Three Houses directly without it feeling intrusive. And like I mentioned, that last lyric, man. Harness your inner strength. Never let them get the best of you. I pray that you'll find a way out of this. Just chills, man. Fucking chills. God, what an astounding episode. Everything here soars to heights that we rarely see outside of individual moments per episode, and everything else surrounding it helps make this something that really means more to me than pretty much any other episode. Hell, not even pretty much, just any other episode. I have no qualms calling this not just my new favorite of Season 10, but my favorite episode of all of Death Battle. Full stop. I'm so happy that this episode is such a great return for Guts and an equally great debut for Fire Emblem. Simply immaculate. Anyway, yeah, I already said I'd be skipping Surf Hunter. It was good, by the way. So let's see what episode 9 is going to be. Alright, fine. Let's finally rip off this band-aid. Let's talk about Bill Cipher versus Discord. Man, what a weird, wild, and wacky road I've been on with this match. I was never really all that super invested in Gravity Falls or My Little Pony. I haven't even watched the former yet. But all the same, these two are just such great villains and super entertaining from everything I've seen. So I was so down to see this actually happen. And if you may remember, I actually posted a video last year pitching this among other matchups for the Champions ballot for people to support. And then it actually got on the ballot. And then it won the ballot. So, needless to say, I was stoked, especially seeing what all they could do to bring these two to life and how they could bounce off each other with their abilities and interactions. And I'm especially excited now because from everything I've heard, especially from DJ, everyone involved in this episode is cooking. So, if that's all the case, then, why exactly did I lead into this section with a feeling of dread? Well, simply put, the debate for this matchup has been not fun, even for someone on the outskirts like myself. Rampant toxicity left and right, regardless of intention, temporarily ended up souring the idea for me a bit. And as a result, I am genuinely afraid of the fallout that'll come from this episode, regardless of who wins. It really shouldn't be that hard to just treat people nicely over this kind of stuff, but no, apparently. All it takes is a few bad apples who don't know how to fucking behave themselves to spoil the fun for everybody else. Jesus Christ. Am I thinking of reviewing the episode when it comes out? I mean, ideally, yes, I would like to. I mean, this is the first ever community-voted episode, so it would be a special occasion. But at the same time, I'm not 100% sure if I'll get to. Not because of any kind of response scaring me off, but just because September's gonna be busy for me. So, don't hold me to anything. And that is a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you made it this far, thanks a million, it means a lot. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all of that good interaction stuff, however you want to go about it, and I will hopefully see you around for whatever I have next. Stay safe out there, and have a good one!